A very good evening to all of you. On behalf of Avtar, I'm delighted to welcome you all for yet another engaging and insightful session. I'm Dr. Hima Elizabeth Matthew, and I will be your host this evening. Before we begin, here are some hygiene checks for a seamless virtual experience. Please close all other applications on your computer and log out from your organization's VPN to conserve internet bandwidth. Countries and organizations across the world are facing impending talent gap that could alter the global economic milieu. Most of the workforces today do not have enough skilled employees to fill in the jobs that are evolving at a rapid pace. Therefore, looking for talent in previously overlooked, non-traditional, and diverse talent pools could be the best solution for organizations to bridge the talent need. And this is where employing the vast available talent pool of second career women who are currently on breaks but are intentional on making career re-entry might become the strongest talent case emerging out of the pandemic. But are organizations paving the path for intentionally bringing back second career women? So, befittingly, the webinar titled Second Career Programs, Stepping Stone to Gender Inclusion, Part 2, will showcase industry best practices while implementing second career programs. It also aims to inspire and motivate many more organizations to embark and accelerate their inclusion journey. In the session today, we have three distinguished panelists. We have Ms. Seema Gudkudia, Head of Talent Acquisition India at Johnson & Johnson. Seema has been in roles of increasing responsibility as BUHR for Janssen India, Johnson & Johnson Consumer Australia and New Zealand, and Consumer India Supply Chain and Operations. He has partnered closely with leadership teams through various initiatives, interventions, and processes to devise and execute robust talent solutions in the area of organizational design, talent, capability, and culture. Our next panelist is Dr. Lavanya Kannaira, Regional Talent Acquisition Manager, APAC and EAME region at Caterpillar. Dr. Lavanya heads talent acquisition for the APAC and EAME region at Caterpillar India. She also has work experience as a coach in the Global Chair for Women-Enabled Leadership Program in Women's Initiative Network. Our third panelist is Ms. Jyoti Menon, Head India Human Resources and Head APAC HR Advisory at UBS India. Apart from leading the human resources function in India since 2017, Jyoti is deeply involved in the DE&I initiatives and leads the Diversity, Equity and Inclusion workstream at UBS India. Her core strengths include HR strategy, mergers and acquisitions, integration and change management, compensation and benefits, talent engagement and development, and employer branding. She has been in the realm of HR for over 25 plus years with experience in managing the HR function from startups to multinational environments. She has held various leadership roles with Credit Suisse, Standard Chartered Bank, Aditya Birla Group, and Layson & Computer Associates. The panel discussion will be moderated by Mr. Karthik Ekambaram, Executive Vice President and Director, DEI Solutions, Avtar Group. He is a diversity and inclusion specialist who has completed several seminal projects successfully for various organizations. An MBA with over 19 years of experience in business analysis, talent strategy, and workforce diversity consulting, Karthik has devised flexible working policies and created diversity-ready workplaces for several Fortune 500 organizations. Karthik has also co-authored several papers that have been published in journals of national and international repute. He has also been conferred the Diversity Leadership Award by World HRD Congress. On behalf of Avtar, I welcome all the panelists and the moderator and the audience to the webinar on second career programs, Stepping Stone to Gender Inclusion. During the session, please feel free to share your questions in the chat window for the panel to answer at the end of the discussion. Over to you, Karthik.
Yep, thank you, Hima. Before you go, in fact, Hima, if we can stay on for a minute.
Sure, sure.
No, we're very happy to have Hima do this. Actually, introduce us all. She is a woman who's actually a second career woman herself, and I thought if she can join with us just for a couple of minutes more and
Sure.
share her journey before we actually start talking about how organizations are really looking at the women who are coming back, the second career women talent, and how are we engaging with them. Hima, please, over to you. Couple of minutes, if you could just share your thoughts, your experiences. I think it will be great for the people that are there today.
Sure, sure. Thank you, Karthik sir. This is completely impromptu, so I'm not very well prepared for this. So I'll speak about my journey. So I did my PhD from IIT Madras in HR from 2012 to 2017. And due to the obvious reasons of the 3 M's, marriage, maternity and motherhood, I took a break from 2017 till 2021 when I joined Avtar. So it was a break for almost 4.5 years. And during the break, the biggest thing that you face as a second career woman is the self-doubt that you generate within yourself. So am I capable of joining back? The gap keeps widening. So am I capable of getting back? Am I skilled enough? Are my skills going to be valued when I join the workforce? So this self-doubt, it goes in a vicious circle. It just keeps on building. And that's when I heard of Avtar and their focus on second career women. And I was lucky to even work under another second career woman herself, Ms. Anju Rakesh. She heads the research and solutions. So in our first conversation itself, the kind of support that the organization provides, and the belief that the organization has in the second career woman, believing that she's completely capable of getting back, and at that launch pad that the organization gives is extremely important. So once the organization and the leadership and your team believes in you, I feel that's all that you need as a second career woman to go ahead. So it has been a wonderful journey, and I have been a strong proponent of second career women, saying that I feel everything gets better for a second career woman. So your motivation increases, your need to perform increases, your agility increases because of all the other responsibilities that you've been handling at work and at your personal front. So everything is better. So when I compare myself to the pre PhD experience and the current thing, I feel organizations, if they're not taking on second career women, it's a big miss, because that's one unused talent pool which is full of potential. So that's my journey for you, sir.
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you, Hima. I think we thought we'll start off with this because those are some of the things that we would like to answer in this session. You spoke about self-doubt, the comeback, right? And how organizations can make that comeback seamless, because there are people who are coming back after a long time. So I think it will be great that you could share some of your perspectives, and hopefully we'll find some answers today. Thanks, Hima. Thank you so much for your time. Uh, Seema and Lavanya, it's pleasure having you both. We'll soon be joined by Jyoti. Unfortunately, she could just join. She just needs some time to join us. So we'll take the conversation with her as well. But absolutely delighted to have you both, Seema and Lavanya. And the fact that, you represent organizations, they're very, very committed to the entire aspect of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And more specifically, in terms of encouraging women actually who are coming back. And I think it's just not the organization. You both share this perspective. We had the conversations before with you, and you also be very passionate about it. So I think it's going to be some great discussion that we are going to have. So I'm going to start with you, Seema, first, right? As a person who is basically, taking care of the entire aspect of the talent acquisition, right? And this is a talent, and we are all fighting for talent, right? And we are all looking at talent coming from different sources and different perspectives, right? And this is something that becomes very important for us. So, Seema, your initial thoughts on women as a talent pool specifically from women who are on career break, Seema, if you could just start off that conversation.
Yeah. So, for J&J specifically, Karthik, this is something that we treaded on about 3 years ago as a journey. So it's not like we've been in the game for a very long time. It's just 3 years ago that J&J India actually got onto the journey of looking at returners as a talent pool to explore. Globally, J&J launched a program about 5 years ago called Reignite,
Mm,
wherein we look at women with minimum 18 years of career gap to come back as an internship for 6 months, and then of course based on performance and their willingness and fitment and everything, the roles are finally they're confirmed as employees with J&J. So that's been a journey for us about 3 years ago. When we started, trust me, there were so many questions in the minds of the hiring managers, beginning with, really, is that why do we want to do that? Are we sure? Why are we investing in this? We don't get it. Or North America is very different, it doesn't work in India. That kind of a mindset is where we started. Globally, J&J has positioned Reignite for STEM careers. Okay. And supply chain is really holding it centrally, and that's where we started in India. For J&J India, that was the first place we started looking at returners. So a couple of things that also will resonate with what Hema was saying, right? One is they're really, really eager to make an impact. They're very, very passionate about making it happen for themselves. So they bring this extra amount of motivation, inspiration, passion that you actually may not necessarily all the time find with a lateral hire. One is that. The other is they come with a lot of self-doubt. They do while they are so passionate and they're so keen on making that career, but they are also equally coming with a lot of self-doubt. This whole transition to the corporate world, how will I especially the ones who've been on a fairly long career breaks. Like, I remember in our first batch of Reignite, there was a lady coming after 16 years career break. So people like that, literally they feel like I've forgotten what it is like to go to office. I'm not sure if this is something that's right for me at this stage. So you have a bunch of people who are really keen, so the willingness is very, very high.
mm,
But I think there is an element of doubt, which is where we all play a huge role. Where, how do we make this really a place of psychological safety for them, where they can come in and it's okay if they falter, and it's okay if they take some time to learn, but can they get to that place? And we, each of us, around them, are really responsible for that. And of course, that's the place you need to spend most of your time in for something like this to work out, right? Everything else honestly is transactional. It goes back to regular sourcing and hiring for these individuals, but the meat lies in how do you create that environment for them, where once they come in, they don't feel this is not something that will work for me, where they feel like it's okay to falter, it's okay to take some time to get there. It's a journey, I'll get there. And of course, one is the candidate, the other is the hiring manager, right? Both these stakeholders need to be engaged with for that element to sort of work out. So that's really sort of my take on what that journey has been for us. We're constantly, for us, the bullseye is the hiring manager, and constantly working on that piece, because I think honestly the external world has now given women a lot more confidence. If you look at the corporate, if you look at in the last 5 years, the number of returnship programs that have come into picture, I think it's become something that's really picking up attention, and women are starting to see this as a possibility. So keeping the hiring manager, who sort of becomes like the gatekeeper, right, of everything, your success in the organization, your entry into the organization, your confirmation in the organization, all of that. So I think that's where we keep our eyes on, because that's where this falter of the or the potential for missing the success is there for us. So that's sort of my take on and the experiences that I've had in the last 3 years on returnship program. Yeah.
sure. Thank you, Seema. And one interesting thing that you mentioned is about when you started 3 years back, and how it was difficult probably to bring people on board, to convince them about the possibilities and the success this program could have. When Avtar started in 2000, I think the biggest vision of Dr. Soundarya Rajesh, the founder of Avtar and Avtar, was this particular vision of helping women come back. In addition to where we are really looking at creating a gender balance, 50-50 gender balance, one of the things that we felt that could contribute to this huge talent pool of women on career break, and they could really create an impact. And we really started this, and we had a similar, probably even greater challenge, because people did not even hear about women coming back, right? And when we actually started talking to them, there was this various, and Hema spoke about self-doubt. I think the organizations had doubts, self-doubts, whether they are ready for to do it. Even the women, even if the women were ready, they were at doubts whether they were ready for it, right? Did we have those the acceptance, the awareness, the ability to deal with this, right? And also a lot of questions on, and you spoke about women who's come back after 16 years of break. Would they really have those skills intact, the kind of the will to succeed, to grow. So those are the difficult times for us when we actually started, and I'm just saying, so those are difficult times. But I think that the more we started talking to organizations about it, talking about the possibility of this huge talent base, people who have been skilled, the people you're talking about with more than at least 5 years, 6 years, 8 years, 10 years of experiences, hardcore experiences across different functions, right? And the break could be even just 2 years, 3 years, right? It doesn't matter many times, right? You have already, gone through the grind. Yeah, you just need a little bit. For example, just in the cricket, right? You are out of touch. You just go to the nets, do some little bit practice, and you just come back, right? You get the form in. So it's just about that, providing that little bit of time for to come back. So I think there's a lot of convincing that we do, and it took some time for corporate India to really start looking at it. But today we are glad that we are working with more than 100 organizations in this second career program, including with you, Seema, on the Reignite program. It's a pleasure working with you, and we are so much delighted today that there's a lot more organizations have bought into this, and the comeback is much more easier. For women, I think now men are talking about, can I take a break and I can come back? Because the breaks were always looked at, a huge risk, and people used to fudge their resumes, right? In terms of, covering that break. I think that sort of stigma is gone, and people are not no more bothered about the comeback, right? So I think, Seema, it's pleasure working with organizations such as you, such as yours, and who really sees the merit in doing it. Thank you so much for sharing your initial thoughts. We'll just go deeper later and understand the way that you make this transition easier and much more productive for both the organization and the women who are actually coming back. But Lavanya, I would just like to go next in terms of asking you the question on what are your thoughts about this particular talent pool, Lavanya? Right? How do you see this?
Yeah,
And the how does Caterpillar sees this?
yeah. So thanks, Seema. Thanks, Karthik. Seema, you set the platform so well. It's a place like it's a great place now. Honestly speaking, a few months ago, I saw an ad. It was just a 2 minutes advertisement. A person is interviewing a young girl, and she says, "I have. What are you into?" She says, "I was last 3 years. I was into leadership role." So the manager asks, "What are your strengths?" I was put in an unknown space. I had to work with people who I never knew. I just had a hello hi introduction. So I sat there, the entire organization was set by
Sorry to
me.
sorry to interrupt you, Lavanya. There seems to be some break in your voices. Can you check that?
Am I, yeah, my internet is full. Hello,
This is better. This is better,
am I
Lavanya.
audible now?
Yeah, yeah, much better. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, so I was committed. I built a team. I developed people from 0 to 3. They are independent and all this stuff. Wow, which company were you employed? As in the beginning, what's her name? Archana or someone she said, right? 3 M's. I got. Sorry, you're on mute.
Sorry, Hema. It was Hema.
Hema, yeah,
Hema,
Hema. Hema said it was 3 M's, like, yeah, marriage, maternity break, and then motherhood. She said, yes, I was put in a platform where I never knew who those people are. I built a family, I have a child, and she's 4 years and she's going to school. Literally, the manager took himself back. I'm starting with a story that really gave me a different thought process. Like Hema said, the self-doubt is the biggest problem. We in Caterpillar, we keep telling anything, any career, anything is individual owned and need is enabled. So what am I actually? So what's wrong? Is that a taboo, having a 3 years or 5 years or 10 years of break? No. First, any individual should start thinking, that's okay, I've had a break for a reason. And what am I going to do that gap? And how am I going to sell myself? Like, when you're getting a job, it's as good as marketing yourself with the skills, right? You need to market. To market yourself, you need to build the skills. Typically, now we are in the world of, online, I would say. We are in the world of internet. So never ever feel, okay, I'm doing nothing, I'm doing. Instead, have a vision. That's what we keep telling whenever we go meet any of the women, even who plans to take a break from Caterpillar, we tell them to have a vision. Plan for something. Okay, 3 years after I'm going to come back, and what is the role that I'm going to take, or what role I was doing, what role I'm doing currently, and how am I going to bridge that? So one thing, self-learning, self-trust, and then approaching the right people. You might have to knock many doors. It's as Karthik said, it's not just for the women, it's for everyone in this current world, right? You need to go knock. It's not somebody who's going to come and give you an opportunity. Okay, I'm on break, but I was a gold medalist 5 years ago. Somebody is going to give me an opportunity. No. So always self-help is the best help. So is what even Caterpillar believes. Though we don't have any specific program like, okay, I hire 20% for women returning to the job or the career, but then we believe women who really wants to take some challenging jobs, they are going to approach, because we truly believe in equal employee opportunity, and we open it up to everyone, and we definitely expect every individual to equally compete for the positions. So I personally, and from the company side, what I say is, be strong, be bold. When there is an opportunity, step up and build yourself, build on your strengths. Never talk on your weaknesses. Weakness is always like, it's like yin yang. You will have something you're missing. You will have some of your strengths. Build on those strengths and, go knock the doors. Typically, as Seema said, we have a program, like everybody is having a program, every company is having a program for women in the organization. Unfortunately, the women in the next 100 years, we are not going to see 50% as women workforce. That's what the statistics says, women World Economic Forum says. But if you don't start today, it's not going to happen even after 100 years. So it's open to us. It's open to every individual, every woman. That's what I still remember 15 years ago, one of my managing directors, when I decided to move from Hosur to Chennai, he thought I'm not going to take a job. I told him, no, I had, oscillation whether to take a job or to take a break and then, join. He gave me 11 years. My son was like, he was studying 4 years. And then he said, after a few years, your son will be in school, he'll be in college, your husband will be in job, he will have his friends, your parents will have their own friends, so you will feel left alone. Never do that. You're working, continue to work. Don't think that, okay, I'll have to take all big jobs on my head. Start with a small step. It can be an admin role, it can be a tester's role, it can be a logistics support role, it can be a supply chain support role, or even it can be in the manufacturing plant, it can be, a starter's role. A campus hire will be there as a entry level, and you may be also be treated as an entry level employee. That's okay, right? Then you're rhythming back, ensure that you have a vision. But the first step is, vision may be 100 feet from here, but the first step you take is with no self-doubt, with the break, whenever you have the break, how many hours, the years of break that you have, build on your strengths. That's my takeaway. That's what we feel in Calculator. Even our leaders believe in that. Yes, it is individual owned.
Thank you. I think, Lavanya, the point that you made interesting is, before you take a break, although we are talking about a break and comeback, I think it's also a good forum to discuss about, the aspect of before you take a break, some of the things that you need to consider, and the point that you made, what happens to your life. The advice that one of your mentors gave, I think it is good point for us to reflect in terms of taking that call. And then you still want to take that call, I think it's fine, right? As long as you have done that introspection and reflection, and you're comfortable with the decision that, the reasons that you're really taking those calls of break, love. And I think you made some great points in terms of, and we also understand the way that Caterpillar also looks at this, the entire aspect of it, right? Yeah, you come back, but we can provide all the support that is needed for you to succeed. Yeah, so I think thanks, Lavanya. I think you made some amazing points for somebody who's probably even contemplating to take a break. I think I see Jyoti joined. Jyoti, are you there? I saw your name. Okay, then we will just wait. I think I saw Jyoti joining. So Seema, over to you, Seema. So you spoke about the Ignite program, right, Seema, and you said there were some challenges, right? Can you just elaborate a little bit more for understanding how did you sort of overcome of some of the challenges, right? I think there are different stakeholders involved here, right? The business team, right? The talent acquisition team also, because you also need to go out and look for the right candidates, right? And there are also the business pressures of deliverables that needs to happen, and specifically when you're talking about the IT and the supply chain, right? There are different responsibilities, commitments that are there. So how did you go about bringing everyone together, Seema, from an acceptability perspective, all the stakeholders?
Yeah, yeah. So there are a couple of parts to this, Karthik, that you're asking me. To begin with, what J&J does is takes off the pressure of headcount, okay, which is a great thing because that's what heavily weighs on the mind of a hiring manager. That I have somebody who I'm hiring as a returner. What if they are not delivering? My headcount is going for a waste, right? That's something that plays on their mind. So what J&J has done, that returnship program of 6 months, it's a headcount that does not stay with business. It's globally held. Okay.
Mhm.
So that's the first thing that helps managers to actually open up their mind to that conversation, to say, okay, be assured this headcount is not on you, so you have no cost pressures there. Okay. So that's one. Second is, see, this program is actually sponsored by the global supply chain head of J&J globally. Okay, Kathy Wengel, and it's her baby. She really holds it close to her heart. So that sponsorship really flows down till the organization. So we actually had the hiring manager speak to the APAC sponsor, global sponsor, understand the intent of the program, why we are doing what we are doing. And we started really small, Karthik. It was almost like a pilot.
Mm.
And India was, by the way, the only country in APAC doing this, and the third country in the world doing this, by the way. So in spite of all that sponsorship, it's not easy to just get there in the year one, so to say. And I think we started with relatively junior roles, I would say, because the risk appetite is higher there. So it started with relatively more junior roles, less riskier roles, I would say, in the hiring manager's mind. But you should know that the year one was very difficult for us. We had only 20% conversion in year one because we did not realize how deep rooted the unconscious bias is, which is not just there at the time of hiring, but also at the time of while they are serving this 6 months internship period. And that unconscious bias kept playing on a lot of hiring managers' mind. And this was
Mhm.
year one. So obviously we had a lot of reflection, a lot of conversations with the hiring managers to understand what didn't work, what worked. We actually took a lot of feedback from the reignite hires. How are you feeling? Why are you feeling like this? What would have you have wanted in this experience that would have made you feel more successful? Whether they were successful or not is a different question, because sometimes they are successful, but it's the bias in the mind of the hiring manager that makes you perceive it in a very different way, right? So we wanted to ask them, what has it made you feel? A lot of feedback from that year one has really been helpful in designing how we actually onboard them and what kind of sensitization we do with our hiring managers. We actually got hold of the problem truly in second year, not really in the first year. I think the first year there was a lot of passion, but not a lot of depth in what will really matter once they come in. But I think year one, we were really able to see what is actually happening on the ground. And of course, I'm happy to talk about the fact that, some, like I said, there are few countries doing this, right? So Ireland is actually one of the countries within J&J globally who's doing a fantastic job of it. Okay. And we learned a lot from them. We understood their best practices, and we actually made these hiring managers go through sensitization sessions with the Ireland team. Also, we felt coming from a more distant stakeholder, the acceptability was higher versus if the local TA teams are trying to explain it to you, because you take them a little bit more for granted. But I think that session, that sensitization session, really led to a positive way of looking at the accountability that actually the hiring managers had for the success of these hires. It really turned the table for them in terms of, oh my God, I play such an important role. If I don't do XYZ, all these hires are not likely to be successful. So all this effort that the organization is putting in, I play this key role in ensuring that once they come in, they are successful. So I think that really turned the tables for us. That sensitization program really worked very well. And coming from a set of stakeholders who were really, it was an advanced market, of course. So they were really able to pitch that conversation at a very different level. They had enough examples to talk about and things like that. So for us, I think that was something that did a very good job for us. But when it comes to candidates, right? So again, year two, we had a much bigger pool that joined us. We had about, I think, 15 joinees or something. And we actually designed our onboarding plan a lot more stronger because we were aware of the problems a lot better in the year two. So, the whole mentorship, the whole buddy program, very strong. The buddy, the mentors were very senior people in the organization. That helps them have these cheerleaders at a very senior level, these people who can talk to them about their strengths, their development areas, what are the expected leadership behaviors in an organization, how do you chart your own career path, right? What, not just about these 6 months, but what happens after the internship if you continue with the organization? How do you chart your own career? How do you make a place for yourself? Just the personally branding yourself as an individual so that you can remain in the minds of your stakeholders. So a lot of these conversations, and when it's a very senior leader, the visibility is so high that the chances of success are also very high. So those are two things that I would say really worked for us to cut out a lot of clutter and really focus on what matters. To be honest, year one wasn't an easy one. It of course, we kicked off because of the sponsorship we have from very senior leaders, but I think the local buy-in really truly came in the year two. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you, Seema. I think you gave us some sort of a framework and a checklist in terms of how do you do this. Jyoti, welcome. Right, I'll just come to you quickly. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks,
It's a pleasure
Karthik. I'm so
having you.
sorry. I had some technical glitches. Thank you. Happy to be
No,
here.
no problem. I think it happens, Jyoti. It happens. So Seema, just to the couple of points that you interesting message, you talk about, remove the pressures of the headcount, the cost pressures, and say get that buy-in, and you have people actually come join the organization. You spoke about finding sponsors, a leader who could really drive this, be behind this, right, and get this through. And you said probably start small, do the pilot instead of just probably doing a very organization wide, and sort of you have a place to sort of an experiment and learn, and so that when you go to the second year you are able to actually scale it much more bigger with the learnings that you said. But I think one thing that you said interestingly is that yes, you could uh, probably use a 6 months contract or whatever the methodology that we use to the court, but it is going to come back to you after 6 months. And I think that's what you mentioned. Unless you address those biases, whether you address it initially, but you have to even address it later, it has to be addressed at given point of time. And I think that becomes to me from day one, that becomes very important, right? While we can say that we have a mechanism to avoid those cost pressures, and the leaders taking this call to hire because it's not a net count, but it is going to come back to you, right? And from day one, I think we really need that was a very interesting point, Seema. Sometimes we get caught, right? You put in all this effort, right? You have people on board, and if you're not addressed it, then the program is not going to give you those results if you don't actually end up converting them to full time. I think that's a great learning that we really need to look at. Jyoti, is it possible to have the, are you online? Can we have, uh, can you hear me, Jyoti?
Yeah. Hi, Karthik. Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. Jyoti, is it possible for you to come on camera? Is there some technical difficulty?
Yeah, I'm just trying to. I'm so sorry.
No, I think we should not waste time. I think if you can, but you can have the conversation with us, right, Jyoti?
Absolutely. Yes.
So thanks, Jyoti. I think we had some very interesting conversation about the entire aspect of women coming back, the breaks, how organizations like Caterpillar and Johnson and Johnson is actually looking at, putting together programs in their own way that they do it, Jyoti. So we're absolutely happy to hear from you, Jyoti. How are you really looking at this talent pool of women on break, and what is UBS actually doing this? If you could share your initial thoughts on this, Jyoti.
Sure, Karthik. Thank you so much. Happy to share. So the Career Comeback program that we have in India, UBS, this is our flagship program. It actually attracts experienced professionals, and it's been hugely successful since the time we piloted the program in 2018. The aim was to support candidates who've been out of the traditional workplace for at least 2 years. So in India, this category is largely represented by women who've taken career breaks for family or health reasons or maternity. So the program acted as a catalyst for us to build that pipeline of future women leaders. But again, what I'd like to point out here is that the program with us is gender agnostic. We also have a few men colleagues who've joined us through the Career Comeback program in UBS India. So since the launch, we've actually welcomed 65 career comebackers across all functions. And what's important to note that the merit and the talent of the candidate was never compromised. So sometimes we all need a platform to help us achieve our potential. And that's exactly what we offered through the Career Comeback program.
Wonderful, Jyoti. I think that was in fact one of the things that I was talking about initially, is that how this is changing. And today we speak about everyone benefiting out of the thing that is being done, and we're talking about now men are also much more confident of taking a break and coming back. And I think we have examples from UBS actually hiring men on career break, and that is something great to hear, Jyoti. We will come back to you with few more details as to how do you put your programs together, and how do you ensure that you make this very successful. Lavanya, the question is to you, right? We know that you don't have a program, right, like Johnson and Johnson and UBS, right? But how do you do this, Lavanya, in terms of you may not have a program, but how do you ensure that a Caterpillar is ready and accepting, and you're also ensure that you're sensitized the entire hiring process, the entire the hiring the mechanism that you have, that if somebody is out there looking to come back, and they get all the opportunities to ensure that they get interviewed and be evaluated and be hired without some of those biases actually coming in place, Lavanya. So how does Caterpillar does that?
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Karthik. That's a great question. As I told you or mentioned in the beginning itself, Caterpillar is known for its EEO, Equal Employee Opportunity Company, which means we don't see men or women, no gender bias, no, what do you call, break-in service or everything. It's, we have a position and we have applicants. One is through those who apply. The other thing is we go hunt for talents. So Caterpillar has got, for the last 2+ years, we have been doing one thing differently, like, bringing diversity is not just a wish, but we need to do it with complete intention. Meaning, every interview will have one women candidate. Every interview will have one diversity panelist. So what it means is go intentionally look for the women talent out there, and they may have the career break or they may be having continuous career, whatever it is. Have an intentional search for diversity talent. That's one big change that we have made. Though Caterpillar has been having a lot of women employees working in the organization, even you take the plant side or the engineering side or design side, wherever you go, you will bump to a woman working there. So when we do intentional stuff, not irrespective of, as Jyoti said, irrespective of men or women, what we do is we definitely help the individuals to understand Caterpillar. Because when you're moving from one organization to another organization, you're looking for two things. One is adaptability. One is, bring the talents that you have, the knowledge that you have earned from the other organizations you've worked for. So you should have a kind of, a bridge, right, with what we have, because we already have our people, we have our own process, culture, and structure. So when we are bringing somebody externally, how are we going to integrate those two seamlessly? Because already you have something and you're bringing somebody from outside. We typically believe in be present, meaning seek, share, listen, and champion. So we go ask what is missing, like after the interview and everything. So what needs to be trained and what needs to be given to the candidate to for us, because definitely all of us are into talent acquisition space. We cannot have 100% plug and play candidate. We see some pluses, we see some, where we can have the learning curve. So every individual who's joining Caterpillar will have definitely at least 6 months of, getting to know people, getting to know Caterpillar, getting to know the process, getting to know their job. So we put them into the easy projects. We have them, give them a mentor. We help them a buddy, meaning the peer or a colleague who's sitting next to her or him are doing the same kind of job. So that's how we integrate with the experienced employees inside Caterpillar and the people who are we bringing from outside. So again, I'm going back to the seek, share, listen, and champion. So here the true D&I comes, because diversity and inclusion is not just about gender or what we speak. It's male, female, or nothing like that. Diversity, we truly believe in from a different background, demographic setup, different languages, different experiences, different company altogether. So, and then how inclusive are we going to be? By being actively listening. And we also believe every individual is coming with some kind of ideas, and we truly encourage all the individuals or the newcomers to share their thoughts, what we are doing, how we are doing. So those kind of platform and openness and inclusiveness is enabling the be it women or men in the organization who are coming newly. We build the ability for them to adapt what we have, and we also very open to accept their new thoughts. We also believe in challenging the status quo, meaning not holding the collars but telling them, hey, this is the way we have been doing all now. But then when somebody, even it could be a campus hire, coming and telling us, hey, I'm on a project, this is how I've been doing, and I saw a lot of results and positive outcomes, we definitely encourage that. So going back to my two things, one is adaptability and is ability to bring in the changes, innovation. So this is how we are able to integrate, train, and enabling the people to deliver the results.
Yeah, I think two great points, Lavanya, in terms of the adaptability, and you spoke about the willingness to change. I think that is very important. Any organization which is specifically looking at engaging with women on career break, for that matter, anyone. And I think Jyoti spoke about men coming back, right? I think that's another greater acceptability that we need to have, the adaptability. And therefore, you also need to look at each company, each organization also need to look at the way it probably works for them, right? While you learn from other organizations, some of the best practices, but you also very important that you need to just not replicate, but also customize it based on your requirement, right? So Seema, on that particular question, I like to know, how have you managed this in terms of customize this for yourself with respect to the pre-hiring and once they join back, how do you engage with them? Because I think every organization really needs to, and it could also be the kind of industry that you are in, right? IT could be very different, but whereas if you're in the pharmaceutical, it'll be different. If you're in the banking, it could be different. Because when we work with different organizations, Seema, across different industry, Seema, are you there? Yeah. So
Yeah, I can
Seema,
hear
are you
you.
there?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So when
Mhm.
we work with different organizations, Seema, in the different industries, right? And so there is this big question that comes up in terms of, the availability of talent. So one of the things that we work with organization is to see the availability of talent for those skills, right? That is a big starting point, right? When you want to start off a program, right, and you want to succeed, the availability of talent for that skill is very important, right? At the end of the day, we are talking about women who have worked and they are there, right? We are not trying to create anybody new, right? So that becomes important. Therefore, it is also very important when you do the pilot, you know where you start off with, right? Sometimes we become over ambitious in the way that we do it, right? And then we also need to really look at how do we engage with them when they come back, right? So on that point, Seema, how have you done this at your organization, specifically the pre-hiring engagement and the post-hiring engagement, Seema?
Yeah, yeah. So, Karthik, one of the things that I think will be unique to J&J in this whole panel and probably in this conversation is, of course, as J&J, our hiring in IT is very limited. It's not the main talent pool that we are looking at, right? For us, it's actually a very broad list of roles. To be very honest with you, of course, we started with supply chain, and year two, we added commercial, which is sales and marketing roles in healthcare. And the third year that we are in right now, we actually have HR roles, we have project management roles, we have IT roles. Supply chain, of course, is there. The sales and marketing roles are there. There are digital roles. So we've really expanded ourselves. And honestly, it's pretty much across all functions at this point in time, right? Now, depending on which roles you're coming in, right? Because, for example, when you're coming in a sales role in healthcare, product trainings become really important to build that confidence that you need to have, right? So, of course, there are these customized induction and onboarding plans depending on the roles that you are. But I really want to focus on something that's really core and universal to anybody who comes with that experience of break, right? And I think that element in our mind is that lack of confidence sometimes, is that self-doubt, is that networking skills, personal branding skills. Those are areas which we believe are commonalities in this talent pool and needs to be addressed because they are very inherently in there. Everything else is like, how they say hire for attitude and train for skills. Here we also sometimes train for attitude because they are so self-doubting themselves that you really need to bring their confidence up by really telling them what they are capable of. And mentoring, apart from your typical onboarding that may happen on day one, day two, mentoring for us is that hand holding that we do very, very deeply for the next 3 to 6 months that they are there in that program before they actually get converted into employees for J&J. For us, mentoring is that true flagship approach that we have in terms of really bringing them in. However, once they come in, right, what more can we do? Was a question we actually asked ourselves last year, apart from mentoring. So we've actually done some interesting stuff in terms of giving them visibility and platforms to build their confidence. And I'll talk to you about two examples. We actually had one of our reignite hires during their internship period speak to the global CEO. They represented India and spoke to the global CEO, which a lot of us have never got a chance to do, to be honest. And they were our representatives, for India, sitting there in those conversations. And a lot of people took notice because they are like, we are doubting these women, and they are standing here and doing what none of us have actually ever done. So actually giving them some opportunities which are very unique, high visibility, high impact, so that this unconscious bias that a lot of people who've not hired till, because of course not everybody gets to hire, people who've not hired are also watching this and sort of really asking themselves, I don't know why I'm doubting this population. Actually they're not bad. There are obviously a lot of things in their mind. Are they truly Are they truly focused on their career? They've taken break. Will they be really into it? Will they really be able to manage the issues because of which they took the leave and work now that they are coming back? Is they truly solved for them? So, some of them really sit back and take a notice of, talent like that when they are presented on platforms like that. Just this past weekend, okay, we had this drive called Women in Sales Hiring Drive, where we had one of our sales female employees who got hired through Reignite to actually sit and talk about her experience, because the idea is to tell women, of course we want women in our sales population, but also women who may have had career break in sales. And sales is one of those careers where you're traveling, there is high pressure, there is no number pressure, so a lot of women drop out heavily in sales because they're like, we can't do these jobs with families, it seems tougher, right? So when you have idols like that or examples like that who stand up and tell their own story, having been in their own shoes, you create a certain visibility and stature of this talent within the organization and externally, which gives them that confidence. So for me, onboarding, it's a little bigger than onboarding, honestly. It's really integrating into the organization and binding them into the organization by realizing you have potential that you yourself have not been acknowledging of at sometimes, and bringing that element in them, because that binds them to the organization, and of course they feel confident about having a career that is really really possible by some of these exposures internally and externally. That's sort of a post hiring engagement approach at this point in time. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Seema, in terms of the becomes very important, right, to ensure that there is a lot of advocacy that happens, right, through mentoring and to giving them the visibility, because you also need to showcase as much as we do this to showcase the success of the programs, because I think that's where there is a greater buy-in across the organizations, specifically the larger organizations, right? The visibility becomes very important, right? The visibility of people coming back, uh, uh, doing well, succeeding, right? So it's, I think one of the things that we also need to put together in such programs is the visibility that we can actually do this, and also leaders actually taking part in the visibility, right? I think that is going to be very, very critical in terms of, so great points, Seema. Jyoti, if we could, in fact, I had this ask this question. I think it'd be also good to have one more perspective, Jyoti. When you started this program or contemplated the program, right? What kind of challenges or sort of roadblocks did you hit, and how did you manage to overcome them, Jyoti? Just want to see, is it different for every organization or is the same?
Sure, Karthik. So from a diversity and inclusion agenda, our focus has been very clear. Gender being an inclusive organization, so we have, the Pride Network, we have the Male Ally Program. So we work across all of them. But then our commitment towards equity has been solely through the Career Comeback Program. And why I say that is, people who've taken a break, there is a barrier that you see in returning to work that's outside of their control, right? There is a gap on their CV, and that's often very simply overlooked. And then while they have vast knowledge from their prior career and are absolutely right for the roles that they're hired into, they may need that additional coaching to rebuild their confidence or get them to speed on the workplace that we have today. So with our program, of course, we took baby steps. Like I mentioned, we had a pilot in 2018. And from the learnings, we've moved ahead to a point where we've actually perfected. When I say perfected, it mainly comes from the feedback that we have from the various career comeback cohorts, as well as the line managers. So how do we make it work? I'm sure would be the next question. So it's about hiring real talent for the real roles. So we hire people into permanent positions. I think there are other organizations that look at them for a temp role, for project roles, and then decide, or based on their performance, whether they want to get them in permanently. But here in UBS, we hire them into permanent positions for which we are currently recruiting. So we hire anytime and any place. We don't have separate drives for them. This is a great opportunity to access an untapped source of experienced talent. So while helping us hire more diverse individuals, and the returnees bring diversity of thought, we've seen them bringing life experiences as well as professional maturity to the firm. And upon joining, the participants get that backing that they need for a smooth transition back to the work. This is again something that we've perfected over the years. So in terms of integration, it's a 6 to 8 month customized journey where we have learning interventions. And I think Seema referred to buddies and mentoring programs. Of course, we have the same, as well as a lot of networking opportunities to help these comebackers successfully transition into roles, and that too without being too overwhelmed by the dynamic nature of the corporate world that you see. For example, today you have agile, and I'm sure the career comebackers who come in today don't really understand the agile terminology or how that works, right? So it's all about handholding them. Plus line manager sensitization, because every effort is made to equip the managers who have a career comebacker candidate joining their team in order to ensure a smooth experience for the new joiner. So I personally actually send out a note with guidelines to the line managers for every career comebacker. There is a welcome note to the career comebacker, and then there is a 90-day onboarding schedule that supports the managers with making their new member comfortable and role ready. There's a peer network. So there's that community of career comebackers from all regions, not just India. They offer support, and that's readily established network for those who are coming in after a break. Now, in terms of eligibility, it's out of corporate environment for approximately 2 years, worked but in a kind of a less complex role where they did not use their full skill set and potential, worked maybe in a different role. Example, we even look at teachers, the good communication skills that they have, the discipline that they have. So we also look at candidates who've actually run their own business and now want to restart their career in a corporate environment. And like I said, is gender agnostic. So that close collaboration with line managers and the cohorts help. Plus this close collaboration also with employer branding and marketing. I think, again, there was some inference to the marketing and branding efforts and communication efforts. So storytelling is something that we focus on for these returners, as well as line managers and their sponsors. We continually identify external partners across regions and combine. We leverage activities, events as much as possible. So all of this is with the broader focus on returner population. And last but not the least, we have allies who actually drive this inclusion agenda. So we have employee resource groups. And why employee resource group? Because this is a group of volunteers that helps us build that sense of community, that helps sensitize the workforce at large. And then, of course, there is the Women in India network also, where we have women across various platforms and functions who are there to kind of support, mentor, coach these returners. While I said it's gender agnostic, we also find mentors for the men who join back after a break. So I'm sorry, it took a little bit of time, but that's where we are.
No, I think great points, Jyoti, in terms of, I think, now how this is really looking at, somebody being an entrepreneur and coming back. I think some very interesting, points here in terms of men coming back. And I think how this particular thing is now expanding, right? When flexible working actually started, we thought it was just for women. I'm talking about some 20 years back. And I think today everyone is a beneficiary of it, right? And it's such an in thing now, it's not just for women or it's for everyone, right? And similarly, when you really started this, when you thought it was for women, yes, it's still a greater need for women today. I think as we move forward and we're talking about different career, what we call styles that people are now having, we are talking about linear careers and non-linear careers, right? And this could be absolutely beneficial for everyone, right? A man want to take a break and come back. I think some great benefits out of this. The other thing that you spoke about, Jyoti, I think it's also looking at from the aspect of equity, right? And we often look at equality and we say that everyone is equal and everyone should get an equal opportunity. But this critical aspect of equity, and for you, how your second career program actually defines the equity that you really see in this. I think some great points, Jyoti. We are actually coming very close to the session, right? And I thought we'll just have the final response from each one of you. One, we really wanted to look at. In fact, I have a question here before we ask you to give your last thoughts. I think there is a question from Manasi. Do women career comebacks in organization across different nations due to be trained in attitudinal aspects such as the ones highlighted by Ms. Seema? Research states that contemporary mothers view both mothering very differently from prior generations. Also, they frame employment differently. but most of the research from North America, or your experiences, Indian women, the same or different? Yeah, Seema.
Yeah, I'd like to take a tab at this one, but this is reminding me of a very recent experience I've had, and I myself was, I think, left thinking with this experience. We actually were speaking to a candidate who is an ex-army candidate, female, and we were really under this impression that, listen, she's been in army, she's been there, done that, nothing is tough for her. There's not going to be a location that she's going to be wonder how I'm going to live in a location like that. She's lived in the toughest environments and situations. When we actually spoke to her, and she declined the opportunity because she said my mother-in-law is not okay with it for me to relocate. Okay, so I just want to say that I think researches that are based on North America are so not applicable to tier 2, tier 3 women of India still, who may be in the world that we live in today, but I think their lives are not as contemporary as we would like to believe they are. Maybe some of it would be true for tier 1 metros, probably, sort of sub metro locations, but there is a huge population out there of tier 2 and 3 where I think their lives are very similar to what it used to be 20 years ago, where without permission from so many family members aligning with everyone as a woman, she cannot make a lot of choices. And, of course, we were thinking, how was she in the army if that's the kind of home context she had? And I mean, there are several things. A lot of people go into the army because of the kind of benefits that the government provides and things like that, right? But that just told me that I think there is a huge assumption we have today around some of these things. But my experience has been that depending on the context that you come from, I think this could be a huge part of the kind of support that these women may need. When I say, attitudinal, which is that confidence, that, the resilience that may be needed. Sometimes we are just not used to some, for example, you've not been held accountable for a professional outcome by a manager in 5 years. you know how are you going to respond to that tough conversation when that's done with you, right? That's something that's part of your coaching and mentoring journey, which is why I was talking about that as a mentor, it's so important to make them aware of their strengths and weaknesses, so important to make them aware of the leadership behaviors that the organization may expect. Every organization has its own leadership framework and expectations. So, my personal view is I think from a context that I see around me, I feel it's definitely something that will enable them more to, sort of integrate themselves into this corporate world back again after the break. But I'm happy for other panel members to share their own thoughts as well.
Yep. Anyone would like to share? In fact, my take, the when we talk about equity, right? So I think it's different. People have different needs, and how we can actually fulfill that needs, right? If it requires some bit of a training on attitude level, at the level of skill, I think great. As long as we are enabling, right, and as long as there is a need also, right? Without any assumptions, I think. Jyoti, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, Karthik, I'd like to add that, diversity is actually getting that mix right. And then when you look at inclusion, it's making the mix work. So then it's all about creating, strengthening, and sustaining an open environment where all of us can contribute and reach our full potential. So equity then is taking that further, removing the barriers that block us from fairly attaining, the rewards that we want to achieve. So it actually asks us to acknowledge that everyone has different needs, experiences, and opportunities. So from that perspective, I also feel that what is the truth in certain other geographies, not necessarily in India, because our nuances are different, right? In India, we know for a fact that many women take a break after maternity. Many women leave the workforce, to join their spouses and move on. So here the reality is slightly different, and I think that's where we promote more and more through several of these programs. And then again, contemporary mothers and mothering very differently from prior generations. We also have a program, it's called Mom to Super Mom. And what we do is women who go on maternity, and as they go, we actually have mentors, senior women mentoring them, keeping in touch. It's about handholding them through these times, and then kind of when they come back, also supporting them to kind of settle in. So I guess our frameworks in India are kind of different from what is followed in other geographies.
Yeah. Yeah, I think absolutely. It also needs, it doesn't mean that the same organization needs to have a similar program across all its geographies, right? At the end of the day, the culture is different, the society, the environment that we work in, even from the infrastructure, right? The kind of facilities, the enablers that we have is very different, and therefore it is very important that we are able to customize it to the need of a country, of a region. I think that's a great point, Jyoti. It's not just using the same brush, for every thing that we're really trying to solve for. Lavanya, any thoughts before we thoughts, your take
Yeah,
on the second career women on this particular topic?
yeah, yeah. Especially, yes. I just want to add a point here. Forget about women returning to job. Women who's continuously having the job, they come back after 3 months after maternity or 6 months after maternity. When there's an internal job opening, they have the self-doubt. I'm not having only because I have a gap. So those, women needs more of a mentoring, telling them, hey, never feel bad, or that's why we also, as Jyoti said, we have an allyship program. We tell them, if you don't market yourself, if you don't believe in yourself, who's going to believe in you? How your manager is going to tell you, okay, there's a position that's coming up, go. Nothing is given, there is no free lunch, right? Go and compete. So you have done this. So you typically, forget your strength from the very beginning. Forget about the women who's running. That's my biggest challenge. It's not only in India. I'm seeing this across the regions that I'm handling. So women says, well, Lavanya, I think I need to have full of PMO experience. I have done this marketing, but I don't know whether I can, manage the entire program. Hello, I've done this, but I think I need to develop a little on my communication skills. So they always work on what is missing. That missing piece, I think leaders in the organization, not just the leaders, every individual in the organization should fill in that gap by giving them more strength, by making them feel, hey, you are not someone out of the world. You are with us. We are here to help you. That kind of handholding, that kind of culture shift should happen, both from the individuals, the management, and the women. It's not just one side. It's a kind of I call it a food chain, right? So that food chain, if there is a weaker link, what happens? End of the day, who feels themselves weak will get disconnected. So women over here never feel that I don't have 100% of experience. Actually, when something is as rightly said, I don't know who said this. When a great opportunity comes, go grab it, and then build your strength. Don't ever fear. Okay, I don't have this. Why do you even have to go down? Don't do that. Be strong. Be bold. That's really important.
Thank you, Lavanya. I think you also sort of touched upon the question that I wanted to ask you. What was your message to women who are actually coming back, Lavanya? So I think it's so delight and delightful and so happy, that when we started this 2000 years, in the year 2000, we are probably alone actually talking about this entire comeback for almost close to probably 5 to even 6 years, not many companies, and for various reasons, right? But today we have organizations like the Caterpillar, Johnson and Johnson, UBS actually now doing it, and so happy to see this. And again, today we had a very good interesting panel from 3 different industries, right? From the banking, from the pharma, and from the manufacturing engineering. So I think there is this today, and when we also started, Seema, Jyoti, and Lavanya, it used to be the IT companies specifically, and some of the banking, but what we are very glad to see this now, the entire aspect of bringing back women and having programs. I think is now across industry. So that's another very heartening news for us as people who is very passionate about this. So Seema, now your final thoughts on 2 women who are actually coming back and how they can actually make a comeback, Seema.
Sorry, is your question, Karthik, that what is my advice to somebody
Yes,
who's
yes.
looking to
What's the
come back?
comeback? Yes, yes. And how they
Yeah.
can come back to Johnson and Johnson.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the first thing is, keep an eye on our career website because, of course, we keep releasing jobs there. But remember, I think something that Lavanya said, right? If you don't vouch for yourself, who will? So, let the doubts go by. There is more than enough support, not just within J&J, but everywhere that you will go today. There will be a set of people who will be there to support you to get through this journey. So just pull yourself up, go for it, apply for the jobs. I think that's the first piece. Just breaking that inertia in your mind of can I not, can I not? That's the first thing, right? The second is the time that you enter the organization, very intentionally, very intentionally look at your positioning, your branding, your networking, what you're doing. Put that effort that's needed to fill that gap that you may have had in your experience, right? You do sometimes have to work harder than the others in that initial period, and that's okay, right? So just do that because uh, you know after those 6 months or whatever that duration of different programs, or if it's a first, it's pretty much a permanent job, you'll reflect back a couple of months and you'll see, wow, I was able to do this. So I think just two things, pick yourself up. Don't let doubts pull you back. Sometimes, like they say, right, to get momentum, you have to take that step back, and treat your break like that. Then now you can get that momentum because you're ready to gear. So that's what I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the slingshot, right? You just go back and I think come back more powerfully and much more stronger and with much more power and velocity. I think great point, Seema. Jyoti, I think you all had a great career, a long career, Jyoti, right? If you could share some of your experience and perspectives for women and women who are trying to come back, Jyoti.
Sure, thanks, Karthik. I would like to add on to what Seema mentioned. I think never doubt yourself, first of all. And we're not doing you a favor, right? You bring in your skills, your ability, you bring in that diversity of thought, your experiences, your maturity to the firm. And for the firm also, it's a great opportunity to access that kind of talent. So it's a win-win for both. Never feel that it's a favor for you. We don't compromise on roles or skill sets that we want. So you are coming in from a position of strength, yeah, and we are just here to handhold you a bit to make sure that you're successful. So remember, it's a win-win. And like Seema again mentioned, look out for job postings. There are no specific postings for returners. They're there open for male, female. You can be a veteran, you can be a career comebacker. Whichever community you belong to, we treat you equally. We are an equal opportunity employer. So
Thank you, Jyoti. And as you want to look at the job postings of Johnson and Johnson and UBS and Caterpillar, you can also look at us at the myauthor.com. Right, there are a lot of companies which are there. Can also that please visit us at myauthor.com for those exciting jobs that are there. And I think we had some great insights today. Amazing set of panelists. I said coming from different industries. Lavanya sharing her thoughts, and I think every organization has a very different approach, right? So, Caterpillar doesn't have a program per se, but they still hire, right? And Johnson and Johnson has a sort of a interim model of a contract before you actually hire, come back to full-time hiring, right? And whereas UBS, which Jyoti represents, has just hiring. Yes, there is a program, but hire full-time, right? And I think there is a purpose to the philosophy that each company chooses to have. Ultimately, the purpose is to ensure that we're able to bring back women, make them succeed, right, and ensure that there is a good amount of diversity is there. And today I'm also very glad to see, and this is something that we are seeing and we have been talking about, that the break is just not for women. I think the break, it can be for everyone, right? For a man or for somebody, a Gen Z. And I think that we all should be very comfortably and confidently taking the break, right, without having the guilt, if at all we want to take it, without the guilt, without the fear of not ever making a comeback. I think that's another thing. I think those are very positive steps today. And I think amazing work by organizations like you represented here. Thank you so much for all your time. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. Thanks to everyone who has actually participated today. patiently hearing us. Hopefully it has been, you had some great takeaways, and you could actually go back and implement some of this in your own personal life. If you're a woman actually coming back, or if a man coming back, right? And for any organization that is there, see if you can actually go back and implement some of the learnings that we had today. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for your time, and have a great day, great evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of the day. Thank you.
Yeah, Hema, over to you.
Thank you, Karthik sir. Thank you, Seema, Lavanya, Jyoti, and Karthik for this discussion packed with case studies, experiences, examples, and data. And most importantly, for taking companies through all that needs to be done when it has to be a truly gender inclusive company that supports second career women. I really wish I could have had the opportunity to listen to all of you when I was on my career break. But I'm sure there are many like me who would have found the session extremely helpful. Thank you everyone for joining today's session and being a part of our journey, which we make to create inclusive workspaces. We at Avtar look forward to see more companies empowering and enabling a bigger pool of second career women in the coming days through some transformational work in the space of inclusion. All those who are interested, excuse me, all those who are interested to be a part of the second career program, please register in the link provided in the chat window. This is Hima signing off. See you soon again with yet another power-packed session. Thank you.
Thanks, Hima. You're a success story.
Thank you, Lavanya. Thank you, Seema. Bye.
Thank you, Hema.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.